What if the biggest coming out story never actually comes out? What happens when the world keeps asking questions and the stars just keep us guessing? In this episode of LGBTQ+ Vibes, we're diving into 10 young male celebrities who've sparked endless speculation. Not because of any big announcement, but because their energy, style, and connections have the internet whispering, maybe. Think one of them's living their truth? Type vibes if you love a good soft launch mystery. Darren Barnet. In the glittering world of Hollywood, some stars shine brighter not just for their talent, but for the mystery that surrounds them. And Darren Barnet is one of them. Best known for playing the irresistible Paxton Hall Yoshida in Netflix's coming-of-age hit Never Have I Ever, Barnet quickly became a heartthrob for a new generation of fans. With his chiseled features, charming smirk, and undeniable screen presence, it's no surprise he became a breakout star. But while millions of fans obsess over his every move, what truly keeps Darren Barnet in the spotlight isn't just his career. It's the enigma of who he really is when the cameras stop rolling. In 2023, things took an intriguing turn when Barnet appeared in Gran Turismo, where a tender, emotionally vulnerable scene with a male co-star caught viewers off guard, in the best way. It wasn't overt, but it was enough to spark a frenzy of speculation. Fans praised the moment for its authenticity and subtlety, wondering if it hinted at something deeper. Off-screen, Darren has always maintained a low profile. He's been seen in close, sometimes affectionate interactions with both male and female co-stars, but never addresses rumors directly. In an era where many celebrities share every aspect of their lives, Barnet's silence feels louder than words. And maybe that's what makes him so fascinating. He doesn't deny, doesn't confirm. He simply exists in that quiet space between assumption and truth. Whether it's a deliberate strategy or a deeply personal boundary, no one can say for sure. But one thing's clear. As conversations about sexuality and identity continue to evolve, Darren Barnet remains one of Hollywood's most intriguing question marks. And he's not alone. Because if there's one actor who rivals Darren in charm, mystery, and media fascination, it's the ever-enigmatic Charles Melton. Charles Melton doesn't need to say much to get people talking. With that soft stare, leading man charm, and disarmingly gentle energy, he's made an entire generation of fans lean in and whisper the same question. Wait, is he? He rose to fame as Reggie in Riverdale, a show soaked in teen drama and queer energy. But unlike many of his co-stars, Charles never chased the spotlight. While others played up their press personas, Charles stayed low-key, almost enigmatic. And maybe that's what made him even more intriguing. Over the years, his fashion choices have leaned softly androgynous. Think turtlenecks, soft knits, and a vulnerability in red carpet photos that's rare in Hollywood's hyper-masculine landscape. He wasn't loud about anything, but something about the way he moved through fame always felt different. What truly shifted things, though, was May-December. His performance in the 2023 film stunned critics, not just for its complexity, but for how Charles fully stepped into a role that required emotional nuance, sexual ambiguity, and intense vulnerability. Suddenly, he wasn't just the hot guy from Riverdale. He was something deeper. And fans noticed. Then came the photos, candid shots with male friends that had zooming in just a little too hard. Stylized editorial spreads that gave fashion twink with secrets energy, a lack of any recent public relationships, and a silence on the topic that only added fuel to the fire. Was it anything definitive? No. But in the world of queer-coded celebrity culture, it was enough to start a conversation. And the LGBTQ+ internet did not hold back. TikTok edits, Twitter threads, Reddit theories. Charles Melton slowly became a soft obsession. Not because he came out, but because he didn't. Because in every choice, every look, every role, there's just enough to wonder and enough to hope. But maybe the most beautiful part of Charles's mystery is that he's never pushed back, never made jokes at queer fans' expense, never shut the conversation down. He simply lets people feel what they feel. And for many in the LGBTQ+ community, that unspoken respect means everything. Whether he ever says anything or not, Charles Melton has become a symbol of possibility. That queerness doesn't always have to be declared. That ambiguity can be soft. That silence can be sacred. Think Charles is quietly rewriting what it means to be a heartthrob in 2025. Type SOT in the comments if you love when a mystery feels just a little too beautiful to solve. Michael Cimino, the teen idol who walked into queer fame and stayed. When Michael Cimino first stepped into the spotlight as Victor Salazar on Love, Victor, fans assumed he was just another young actor playing a gay character. But what no one expected was just how naturally he'd fit into queer culture, both on and off screen. He wasn't gay, he said, but he supported the community deeply, authentically, and he wanted to tell Victor's story with empathy and truth. His performance was raw, emotional, sometimes awkward, sometimes brave, just like the coming out stories of so many LGBTQ viewers watching at home. And queer fans didn't just appreciate him, they embraced him. What followed wasn't your typical straight actor once and done. Michael didn't move on from queer content. He leaned in. He kept showing up at Pride events. He kept saying yes to interviews that explored masculinity, fluidity, and emotional vulnerability. He stayed close to the fan base not for clout, but with a kind of quiet sincerity that made people feel like he got it. And that's when the speculation started to shift. Not because Michael said something, but because of how much he didn't say. He often talked about understanding both sides of attraction. He wore clothing with just the right amount of softness. His Instagram felt like it had been curated by someone who knew exactly what gay TikTok wanted. And the roles he took? Still queer adjacent, still emotionally tender, still lingering. Fans noticed and they started to wonder, was this just a good ally or someone writing their own quiet story? But Michael never pulled the usual PR moves. No performative girlfriend posts, no reactive statements to the rumors, no shutting the door. He just let people talk. Let queer kids project. Let fans find hope in his silence. In a time where coming out can be a press cycle or a viral headline, Michael Cimino's mystery feels different. It feels gentle, patient, intentional. Like he's crafting something slower, something that doesn't need labels to resonate. The truth is, no one knows what Michael Cimino identifies as. And maybe that's the point, because for so many fans watching him, young, queer, unsure, he's already done what matters, made them feel seen, safe, and celebrated. Whether he ever says the words or not, Michael has become something rare, a soft icon for a generation that doesn't need hard definitions to feel deeply connected. Think Michael's queer-coded energy speaks louder than words? Type LIMINAL in the comments if you love a star who lives in the space between. The pretty boy with a private life and a queer fan base. If Hollywood had a checklist for queer-coded heartthrobs, Gavin Leatherwood would check every box twice. Brooding stare? Check. Ambiguous fashion sense? Absolutely. Roles that flirt with queerness without fully crossing the line? You already know. But here's the thing. Gavin never had to try. He just appeared on screen in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, raised an eyebrow, smirked at the camera, and suddenly gay Twitter claimed him. No debate, no discussion, just vibes. He was theirs. On the show, his character Nicholas Scratch had just the right amount of fluid energy, flirty, mysterious, and dangerously charming. But it wasn't just the role. It was Gavin himself. How he carried it, how he smiled in interviews, how he seemed just slightly out of reach, like he was in on a secret no one else could quite decode. And outside the show, Gavin kept that mystique alive. He shared just enough on social media to stay relevant, but never too much. No loud declarations, no girlfriend reveals, no clickbait relationships, just dreamy black and white photos, the occasional guitar strum and captions that could be interpreted however you wanted, which of course only made people want to interpret them more. The fan edits came fast. The TikTok thirst traps, the he's giving queer threads. People weren't just watching, they were decoding. Was that nail polish for fun or for something more? Was that gaze a pose or a message? Was that lyric a hint? Gavin never confirmed anything. He also never denied anything. And that silence, it became part of the story. What set him apart, though, was how gently he held space for it all. He never mocked the speculation, never made fans feel silly for reading into things. Instead, he leaned into softness, into fashion, into intimacy. And in a landscape filled with carefully constructed PR masks, Gavin's quiet ambiguity felt real and deeply magnetic. In 2025, his name still pops up in Is He or Isn't He threads, but at this point it's less about the label and more about the feeling. Gavin represents a kind of modern masculinity that resonates with queer fans. Warm, emotional, expressive, but never overly explained. He exists in that sweet in-between, and maybe that's exactly where he wants to stay. Whether he ever defines himself or not, Gavin Leatherwood has already offered the queer community something valuable: permission to be unreadable, to be soft without labels, to wear a little eyeliner and still be taken seriously, to be adored just as you are. Think Gavin is perfectly queer-coded without ever saying a word? Type Enigma in the comments if you live for the ones who don't need to explain a thing. The laid-back star who's got everyone reading between the waves. There's something about Rudy Pankow that makes you lean in just a little closer. Maybe it's the messy blonde hair, maybe it's the easygoing smile, or maybe, just maybe, it's the way he carries himself, like someone who's in on a secret he's not quite ready to share. Rudy burst into pop culture consciousness with Outer Banks, playing JJ, the wild, impulsive, loyal to the core surfer kid with a heart full of chaos. And almost instantly, the queer community zeroed in on him. Not just for the role, but for the energy he gave off. Playful, tender, emotionally charged, and undeniably watchable. It wasn't just that JJ felt queer-coded, although he very much did. It was that Rudy embodied him with such intensity. Those longing stares, that reckless loyalty, the way he threw his whole soul into scenes with the other Pogues. Fans didn't just ship characters, they shipped vibes. Outside the show, Rudy kept things just as open-ended. He's charming in interviews, close with his male co-stars, and has a social media presence that's somehow both chaotic and curated. Sometimes he posts goofy behind-the-scenes videos. Other times, poetic captions, soft lighting, shirts unbuttoned just enough to make queer TikTok whisper sir. He's never made a big statement, never labeled himself, never felt the need to clarify. But that's exactly why fans keep wondering, because Rudy doesn't push back on the speculation. He doesn't perform masculinity the way many young male celebs are told to. He just vibes and lets the rest unfold. In a world where coming out is often monetized or performative, Rudy's ambiguity feels different. Honest. Comfortable. Like someone who's still figuring things out, or maybe already knows and simply doesn't owe anyone an explanation. And let's talk about the fashion, because Rudy Pankow might be the only Gen Z heartthrob who can walk a red carpet in nail polish and a crocheted cardigan and make it look like the hottest trend in town without ever saying a word. He doesn't scream queer, he just feels like he could be part of the family, or at least deeply loved by it. It's not about outing, it's not about pressure, it's about presence. And Rudy's presence has created a soft, surfer-shaped space where queer fans can project, dream, and maybe see a bit of themselves. Whether he ever says it out loud or not, Rudy Pankow has become a modern-day icon of emotional openness. And in 2025, that matters more than any label ever could. Think Rudy's chill, cozy chaos is exactly the kind of queer-coded energy we need more of. Type drift in the comments if you live for stars who keep us floating in curiosity. Mason, the Scream King with a soft spot for the gays. There's a reason Mason Gooding keeps landing roles that make the internet collectively gasp. He's charming, he's funny, he's way too good-looking. But beneath the Hollywood son of Cuba Gooding Jr. spotlight, there's something else happening. Something softer, quieter, and very queer-friendly. Let's rewind. Mason's big break came with Booksmart and Love, Victor, where he played Andrew, the cocky jock with emotional depth and the slowest, most satisfying character arc in the series. While he wasn't the central queer character, he was deeply connected to one. and he handled it with nuance, respect, and surprising warmth. Unlike many actors in his position, Mason didn't just show up, deliver lines, and clock out. He engaged. He promoted the show with sensitivity. He spoke openly about the importance of LGBTQ+ representation. And when asked about his own identity, he smiled, nodded, and said he was happy to be part of a story that mattered. It wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no. It was open. And queer fans, oh, they noticed fast. Soon, TikTok was flooded with edits. Twitter threads went deep. People pulled receipts from interviews, red carpets, and panels where Mason would sit just a little too close, compliment his male co-stars just a little too smoothly, and rock a painted nail or a gold chain like he knew exactly who was watching. He's never made a spectacle of it, never posted a rainbow emoji for likes. But his vibe? It's there. The soft jawline, the thoughtful gaze, the unbothered confidence of someone who's entirely comfortable letting you wonder. Even in Scream 6, where he stepped into full slasher star territory, Mason played the tough guy with a knowing wink, as if to say, I know I'm the internet's bisexual boyfriend, and I'm fine with that. What makes Mason especially magnetic to LGBTQ+ fans isn't just his looks, though let's be honest, it's his intelligence, his openness, and his refusal to box himself in. He talks about mental health, he praises queer artists, he chooses roles that live in emotional complexity, and he never once makes queer speculation feel like an attack. In a media landscape that still punishes softness in men, Mason's quiet fluidity feels like a revolution. Maybe he's straight. Maybe he's questioning. Maybe he's just secure enough to not care how you interpret him. Whatever the truth is, queer fans have already made their choice. Mason Gooding is one of ours, whether he knows it or not. Think Mason's energy is the definition of modern masculinity with queer undertones? Type blur in the comments if you love a man who doesn't need clarity to be iconic. The gentleman mystery wrapped in velvet and smolder. From the moment he appeared in Bridgerton, the internet didn't just fall in love, they spiraled. That accent, that stare, that impossibly elegant restraint. As the Duke of Hastings, Regé didn't just act, he unraveled. He whispered entire emotional arcs with a glance, seduced entire scenes with a breath. But what kept audiences coming back wasn't just the romance or the Regency flair, it was the tension. The sense that there was something deeper humming beneath the polished surface. Something private, something tender, something he wasn't quite letting us see. Unlike many breakout stars, Regé didn't rush to extend his fame. He didn't oversaturate himself across genres or platforms. Instead, he chose projects carefully, spoke thoughtfully, and let the silence in his life speak volumes. While tabloids clawed for details, relationship statuses, candid moments, proof of anything, Regé stayed still. Always courteous, always composed, always just out of reach. It's that distance, that intentional privacy, that's made fans, especially queer fans, lean in closer. The elegant suiting, the romantic poise, the clear admiration for fluidity in storytelling, it all adds to a portrait of a man who doesn't need to say much to be felt deeply. He's become the kind of heartthrob who doesn't chase identity headlines but lets the work, the presence, and the aura speak for itself. And maybe that's what makes Regé-Jean Page so fascinating in 2025. While other stars define, declare, or defend, he simply exists in that velvet space between allure and ambiguity. He doesn't toy with fans. He doesn't dismiss curiosity. He just carries himself like a man who knows that softness and mystery aren't opposites, they're allies. Whether he ever chooses to share more or not, Regé's impact is already clear. He's redefined what a leading man can be. He's proof that masculinity can smolder and still hold space for wonder. And for a generation that finds freedom in nuance, Regé-Jean Page has become not just a fantasy, but a feeling. Think Regé as the perfect blend of elegance and enigma? Type velvet in the comments if you believe that sometimes mystery is the boldest form of honesty. The Gen Z dreamboat who said the quiet part out loud and then let the silence linger. It started, innocently enough, with a comment about Harry Styles. "I guess this is my coming out video," he joked in an interview. And just like that, The internet caught fire. Headlines exploded. Tweets turned to essays. TikTok turned that 6-second clip into something bigger, something louder. But what came next wasn't a press tour, a label, or a rainbow-colored rebrand. Instead, Joshua clarified. He didn't want to put himself in a box. He wasn't ready to define it. And in that pause, that not quite yes and not quite no, something remarkable happened. He found himself at the heart of a new kind of queer iconography. Because Joshua Bassett didn't need to declare anything. The queer fanbase had already chosen him, not out of projection, but out of resonance. There was something in the softness of his performances, in the way he sang about heartbreak like it was a shared secret, in how he spoke about healing, vulnerability, and faith in the same breath. His energy, boyish but wise, gentle but stormy, felt safe, felt seen, and maybe most importantly, felt real. While other young stars tiptoed around speculation, Joshua let it sit, let people wonder, let queer kids hope. And hope, when you're young and uncertain, is everything. In 2025, Joshua Bassett isn't just that guy from High School Musical, the musical, the series. He's a mirror for a generation that's still figuring it all out. One lyric, one heartbreak, one quiet, maybe at a time. He doesn't owe anyone an answer, and maybe that's the answer itself. Whether he's queer, questioning, or simply open-hearted in a world desperate for categories, Joshua represents something softer, something beautifully undone. He's not just closeted, he's complicated. And in a time when so many young people are told they need to be sure of who they are, Joshua reminds us that it's okay to just be. Think Joshua Bassett is proof that a single sentence can shift everything? Type maybe in the comments if you believe there's power in not knowing yet. Not every story needs a headline. Some are told in glances, gestures, and quiet vibes. These stars may never confirm a thing, and that's okay. Their silence speaks volumes. For the queer community, even unspoken visibility can be powerful. Think one of them is almost there? Drop a name below and type almost if you live for mystery. Like, subscribe, and follow LGBTQ+ vibes. We see it and we feel it too.